This homemade soda is healthy? No, it's not kombucha, it's kefir, a fermented drink that's said to have more probiotics than kombucha, but without any of that intense acidic flavor. And I gotta tell you, it's quickly become my new favorite fermented beverage. With kefir, you can turn your favorite juice into a probiotic-rich soda, and today, I'll show you 2 simplified ways to do it. Plus, there's a bunch of ways to get creative with it, which I'll share some flavor ideas at the end, so stick around for that. Alright, let's jump in and learn all about kefir. You've likely heard of kombucha, that fizzy and sour drink with a weird SCOBY floating on top. It's really easy to make at home, as I've shown before a few times. But I'll be the first to admit, it's not for everyone. And if you neglect your homemade one, it can quickly become very acidic, almost vinegary, making it unbearable to drink. But when I found out about kefir soda, I felt like I had uncovered some hidden secret. Kefir sodas are more sweet, and not really acidic at all, especially compared to kombucha. But now you're telling me I can get a healthy gut with a soda? Well, first let's back up and talk about what kefir is. The most common way you might have seen kefir is in cultured milk products. There's brands like Lifeway in the States, and it uses the same components to infuse probiotics into the milk as we're talking about today. These little crystal looking things are called kefir grains, and they're like the SCOBY for kombucha. SCOBY is a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, and these grains work to convert the sugars in your liquid and create lactic acid, mainly in part to our friend lactobacillus. But there's a bunch of varying good bacteria and yeast in there as well. These are the probiotics that support gut health. Some studies have shown that kefir can aid in digestion, weight management, blood regulation, and immune defense. Plus, it's said to be loaded with nutrients and antioxidants. The fermentation does create trace amounts of alcohol, but in most cases, less than 0.5%. Now, as mentioned, you can add this stuff to milk and make kefir dairy. They even have specialized dairy kefir grains. But today, we're just talking about soda, because it's much easier to make and in my opinion, much more delicious. And there's 2 ways to go about it, a harder way and an easier way. The harder way involves growing the grains and maintaining them, and the easier way is using an instant kefir product. First, let's talk about the harder way. And to be honest, it's really not that much harder, but it has a lot more benefits than the easy route. So with this method, you'll need water kefir grains. I'll share some links below to my favorite brand of kefir products. They're not a sponsor, but they make some awesome stuff. Opening the package, there's some simple instructions and a satchel of the dried grains. To me, they look a bit like sugar crystals. So step 1 is to bring these to life. Right now, they're dormant. In a glass measuring cup, combine a half cup of warm water with a 1/4 cup of sugar to dissolve. You can use any sugar here as long as it's a fermentable sugar. Sweeteners like stevia or Splenda will not work. Once the sugar is dissolved, add that to 3 cups of cool water. Then drop the grains in. Cover this up with a napkin and rubber band and let it sit at room temp for 3 days. This gives the grains time to wake up, start fermenting again, and get primed for the main fermentation. And temperature is somewhat important to kefir. Ideal temp is anywhere from 68 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. The warmer the faster the fermentation might be, so just keep that in mind. After 3 days, you'll see the grains have plumped up and dropped a bit of their color. The water has also become more opaque. The aroma is slightly sweet with a hint of funkiness, but really not much there. Now strain off the grains from the water. You can just dump that water, saving just the grains. Now we're ready to ferment for real. Pull out a glass or plastic fermenter, depends on how much you want to make, but I'm using a 1 quart mason jar. You can totally scale this up if you want, but just keep in mind that it might take longer to ferment. Now you can use any sugary liquid of choice, your favorite juice, coconut water, or if you just want plain water kefir, then just repeat the steps from before. 1/4 cup sugar and 3.5 cups water. Whichever way you choose, just mix in the grains and let it ferment. This time just for 24 hours. Yeah, I forgot to mention that this ferments a lot faster than kombucha. And if you stay on top of this, you can have a ton very quickly. Then strain that water into a cup or a bottle, place the grains into another batch of sugar water, and enjoy the water kefir. As long as you keep that cycle going, you should have an endless supply of kefir. In a bit, I'll talk about how to maintain the grains and how to take a break so you're not making it every single day. Now let's quickly touch on the easier option. The powdered starter is like instant kefir, which means less setup, quicker product, but also a less probiotic punch. And unlike the grains, you only use the powder a few times before having to start over with a new pack. In the package, you get 4 satchels of instant powder and instructions. The steps are simple. Add 1 packet to 1 quart of liquid. This can be juice, coconut water, or just more of that sugar water to the same ratio as before. Sprinkle it in, cover with a napkin and a rubber band, and store it in an area a little bit warmer than room temp, around 72 to 74 degrees Fahrenheit. But as long as you're in the ballpark, you'll be fine. Then wait 12 to 18 hours. That's it. When it's done, you'll see the liquid become cloudy, and you can taste to see how you like it. It'll have a slight sourness, but not much. You can reculture this up to about 7 times before it'll stop working. All you need to do is take 1/4 of the finished kefir and add it to another quart of more sugary liquid. Re-ferment again for 12 to 18 hours. So as you can see, you can quickly get a lot going, but let's take a moment to talk about how to maintain the kefir. With the powder, there really isn't much you can do to extend the life. This is more meant for a single to a few time uses. So if you're just looking to experiment, then give the powder a try. The grains are little living creatures. Well, technically the bacteria and yeast in them are. So as long as they have something to chew on, aka sugars, they'll stay alive and you can continue to use them. But if you leave your fermentation on the counter for too long, they'll run out of food and eventually die. So if you want to stop making some kefir for a few days or plan to go on vacation, do this. 1. Start a new batch of the sugar water mix. 2. Cover it up with a napkin and a rubber band on top. 3. Place it in the fridge. This should be fine for up to a month, but if you plan to not use your kefir longer than that, then consider drying the grains. There's info on the product website if you want to know more about how to do that. When you're ready to get back into making kefir, then jumpstart them back to life with a sugar water bath like we did at the beginning. Oh, and every time you use the grains, they'll reproduce and bud, so you can make more batches or share the grains with friends so they can start making kefir. So far, I've mainly been talking about plain water kefir, but let's spice this up a bit with some flavor ideas and talk about how we can get some fizz into this and make it a soda. So the easiest way to make a flavorful kefir is to use juice instead of water. Plus it's so much easier, since it already has sugars in it. I personally love to get these more unique juice blends, and if you want to get really fancy, you can add other ingredients like herbs and spices to level it up. You can totally add the ingredients right into the main fermenter too. Unlike kombucha that needs to keep the fermentation more pure. With kefir, you can add whatever you want in there, but just remember you'll have to sort it out before the next batch. I let it ferment for a day, and then strain the kefir off into a few bottles. For the grains, just rinse them with some filtered water, and they're good to go into another juice of choice. Now, to get fizzy. I recommend filling the bottle 3/4 of the way with the kefir, and then add some more of the same juice to fill it up to the top, leaving a little bit of headspace. This will add more sugars in it and in turn will re-ferment, and after another day or two on the counter, make it fizzy by building pressure in the bottle. Just make sure you use bottles that can hold pressure. These old kombucha bottles work great. If you want a more subtle flavor, you can always just make the sugar water version and then add your flavorings at this point as well, like juice or frozen fruit. If you're looking for some flavor ideas, here are some good options that I've had. Pog or passion fruit, orange, and guava. Some stores sell this juice in a carton and it's phenomenal. My new favorite obsession. Watermelon mint. So freaking refreshing on a hot day. Just add the mint into the main fermentation and strain it off at bottling. PINA colada, aka pineapple juice and coconut water. Hibiscus ginger. Toss that ginger and hibiscus leaves into the main fermentation with sugar. Lime agave. Just sub the sugar for agave syrup. And blueberry lavender. Go easy with the lavender, but a subtle touch makes this an amazing combo. But that's just some options. I'd love to hear what flavors you plan to use. Let me know in the comments. So that's kefir in a nutshell. A super easy fermentation to get into. I seriously can't recommend this stuff enough. Perfect to have on its own as a refreshing mid-afternoon drink, or you can spike it with the alcohol of your choice. It makes for an excellent cocktail. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you like super simple fermentations like this, then I got the perfect video, all about the 3 easiest alcohol fermentations for beginners.